want to know what the hottest topic in the free format fighting systems appears to be this week? Pound for pound, who should be number one? They redid the rankings. Khabib was put in there, but Jon Jones was officially put at 1. Now, there's always a question, right? How do you even put Jon in there with all the violations that he's gone through? On the other side, do you ignore the skills that he brings because of the violations he went through? Okay, well, I guess the answer came in, and it's no, you don't ignore his skills. He got put at number 1. Khabib got put at number 2. I can't remember 3, but Cejudo was 4, just by example. I imagine Amanda Nunes is on there somewhere. I would imagine Whitaker's up there somewhere. Stipe's got to be in consideration. So how do you break this down, particularly when it is a fictional topic that there is no way to break down? And I will tell you this, by the way, because I have heard many people try to get into the debate because it's only fun, right? It's just discussion. There's no way to prove it, which in some ways attracts people to it even more. For me, it pushes me away. Go, why are we having a debate about something we could never prove? There's no measurable instrument here. It cannot ever have a conclusive answer. It will always just be popular thought. How do we do this? The other side of it is, that's what keeps it around, because it never goes away. There is no conflict met with conflict resolution. There is only a debate met with more debate. So it's interesting when you're talking about Khabib for a couple of reasons. Don't forget, the pound for pound was coined by a man out of New York who was a journalist in 1974, and what it was meant to mean, and what it must mean, because he is the one who coined it, is who, regardless of what weight they weighed or class they were going to go into, could win at any weight class. And whoever that is the pound for pound best. People have attempted to change that meaning over time. You have no right to change that meaning. That is the meaning from the man who coined it in 1974 in Brooklyn, New York, in a paper that sucked, quite frankly. He was talking about the sport of boxing. Okay, great. But these are still the rules that we have to live by. And when you talk about Khabib, you're talking about dominance. That is different than skill. In many ways, that is the greatest of all time is largely a resume argument. Dominance. The most dominant fighter in the world is Khabib. Khabib has only lost 1 round. Khabib has fought the who's who. Now, the same could be said for Jon Jones in terms of who he's had to fight. That's true. But John's has lost a whole bunch of rounds. Some people believe he's lost fights. Many people thought he lost the Santos fight. Many people thought he lost the first Gustafsson fight. By example, Khabib has never been threatened. Khabib has never been in danger. I can remember a time Floyd Mayweather was fighting Sugar Shane Mosley, gets hit, his knees wobble, and people go, oh my gosh, Floyd's a human being. Floyd was so dominant, those were the things that you had to turn to. 1 punch with a knee wobble. That's the same thing people are having to turn to with Khabib. Oh my God, was he hurt? It looked like Poirier hit him, and then Khabib kind of backed up. Was Khabib hurt? Is he a human being? When that's as much shade as you're getting thrown at you, that's when you understand how dominant you are. Khabib is the most dominant fighter in the world. Is he the greatest fighter in the world? Because now you're talking about a body of work and somebody who is dynamic and somebody who has shown an ability to dominate and control fights in both aspects of the fight, of which is the stand-up and on the ground. That's largely why him versus Tony Ferguson is so damn compelling. Tony has shown an ability to fight absolutely everywhere that the fight goes. Khabib hasn't. That's not Khabib's fault. Khabib's never been taken down. We've never seen the guard work of Khabib. Khabib wants credit for that and going, yeah, you've never seen me in bad position because I've never been put in a bad position. Okay, great. Strong argument by Khabib. But it is a different argument if you're talking about dominance. It's for sure Khabib. If you're talking about skill, you can still bring Jon in there. Now, both of them are about to be left out of the conversation as soon as Whitaker and Adesanya get in the ring. Whoever wins that fight will be the greatest fighter in the sport. But when you're only left with conversation and dialogue and resumes and highlight reels and belts and titles, you are stuck on both of those athletes to put them head to head with Conor McGregor or currently with Henry Cejudo. Now, why would I say Conor? Conor has every right, if he can still make 145 pounds, to lose as many fights as he wants to lose at 155 pounds. Don't forget that. Conor has every right, if he can make 145 pounds where he was never beaten, interim champion and undisputed champion, to go into a sport of boxing, which isn't what he does, and go lose as many fights as he wants to, as long as he can still make 145 pounds. As long as he can make the weight class of which he was unblemished in, and the world champion. He has the right to leave that weight and do whatever he wants. Don't forget that. That's part of the argument. I don't make these rules, but I am here to enforce that these are the rules that we adhere to. So Conor McGregor, as long as he can make 145, still gets a rightful seat at the table for being the greatest in the world. If we are conceding to Conor's concession that he can no longer make 145, then we are forced to only look at what he did at 155, or in fairness, what he did in another sport, which was boxing, of which as great of a performance he put on. He is 0-1. I'll back down and concede that to you. But to look at Khabib and or John, while we are living in the champ era, and anoint them as number one when they refuse to leave their weight class is not an argument that you're going to win. You simply are not. It is why people are taking these risks and doing the champ thing. It's not because they just had extra space on their mantle and they wanted to put a new belt up there, you fools. It is because of their legacy and so that they can win this ridiculous hypothetical argument that can never be proven anyway. When you have a guy like Henry Cejudo, who is not only a two-sport athlete, but he is a two-division simultaneous champion, it is very tough to argue then that somebody else would have the pound-for-pound ranking when the definition of pound-for-pound is who could change weight classes and still keep the throne. That's the entire conversation. So you can't bring somebody into the conversation over a guy who did meet the criteria of the conversation. It goes to Cejudo. Based on that, it goes to who isn't even in the dialogue. It's currently going Jones 1 and Khabib 2. Jones is in a tough spot, by the way. He just happens to be the perfect light heavyweight. He just does. When he's training, which is pretty rare, but he's somewhere around that 220 range. He pulls a couple of meals out and sweats some weight out to get down to 205. Very short and easy period. And if he doesn't want to go into a weight class where he could be up to 45 pounds outweight, that's really not something that should be his fault. He's also too big to go to 180. He's stuck. In many ways, he's stuck. And I realize, yeah, he could go to heavyweight. But I don't know that you could put that on John as an unwillingness. Khabib, on the other hand, is unwilling to leave 155, but it's not because he doesn't believe he can compete. He's got this loyalty and this brotherhood, and Islam happens to be at 170, who Khabib would like to stay out of his way so Islam can go on and reach a world championship himself. Very honorable and commendable, and not the first time we've seen it. Daniel Cormier and Cain Velasquez worked out something very similar. It's an honorable thing, but it will also take you out of the champ ability. And if for any reason you don't test the waters and do it successfully so in the champ conversation, you don't get to trump the guys that did. And we've even seen this in reverse, which was Max Holloway. Max, who's the 45-pound king, is the master of that weight. And when he left the weight, he ran into Dustin Poirier. It was a valiant effort and but he didn't reach it. And so many people then greatly reflected Max's ranking in the pound for pound. They had the right to do so. It's a knife that cuts both ways. But if you're going to acknowledge the deficit you're against when you have a guy like Max who didn't achieve the goal, but you're not going to recognize the Conor McGregors or the Henry Cejudos of the world who did obtain the goal, and you're going to put John up at number 1 and Khabib at number 2, forgetting some of these other guys, you're just not following the rules of the pound for pound, which was created in 1974 from a journalist out of Brooklyn, New York.